Welcome back and welcome to my 2020 Quick Reads review and reading vlog. If you are new here, my name is Katrina and I make bookish videos here at least twice a week, and then either book to movie or movie reviews content at the weekend. I ordered the 2020 Goodreads books. I pre-ordered them all and got them in February. They hit my Kindle in February, and then I got physical copies of the books as well. So I decided that as I was reading my way through them, I would read them along with you, vlog the process and give you reviews as I went along. I will leave all the Quick Reads information in the description box below, as well as any written reviews I might have posted. But this is Quick Reads 2020 books were This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, Darkness Rising by A.A. Dand, which is book 0.5 in the Inspector Harry Verdi series. A Fresh Start, which is edited together by Fanny Blake, but includes entries from Louise Candlish, Mashuda Snaith, Keith Stewart, Mari Hanna, Joe Moyes, Fanny Blake, Adelle Parks, Mike Gale, Sophie Kinsella and Ian Rankin. And this is 10 gripping stories from 10 best-selling authors, all around the theme of A Fresh Start. The Little Dreams of Lara Cliff by Millie Johnson. The Donor by Claire McIntosh. And Notting Hill Carnival, A West Side Story by Candace Carty-Williams, aka author of the massively successful Queenie. So those are lots of authors you will have heard of, but one of the great things about Quick Reads is that it introduces you to different genres and different authors you might not otherwise have read. So that is why I decided to take you along on my reading journey. So without further ado, let's get into the books. Right, I'm finally sitting down to read. Daylight Savings Time started yesterday and it's just like killed me. It's like 5:20. Anyway, I have my coffee, I have my snack, and I've decided to start with the Millie Johnson. Obviously I have already read one, so I'm not starting with this, but starting with this. Sorry about the noise, it's really hot in here, so I've had to like open the door because I'm not willing to put the aircon on in March. Okay, let's do some reading. Read chapter 1. I'm just about to move on to chapter 2. Chapter 1 is only 8 pages, and we're setting the scene of the 4 friends aboard the cruise ship. It's a cruise that I've done actually. It's the one that goes over to Amsterdam and you spend the day in Amsterdam, but you sleep the night before on the boat and the night after on the boat, and so it's quite familiar, and I'm intrigued to see how things pan out, what's going to happen at sea. Okay, false start there. I've got my coffee, I've got my book, I've got my breakfast. I am ready to read. Just poured myself another cup of coffee. We are on page 61, so I'm like 2/3 of the way through, so we're gonna finish up now. Well, that was wonderful, like I say, especially having done that cruise and done the day in Amsterdam thing. Yeah, it was interesting about kind of looking back on memories and thinking about the future, and gets you thinking. Okay, it's lunchtime-ish, so I am gonna take 5 minutes and do some reading. I'm on chapter 5. I'm sorry I'm talking to you through the steering wheel. It's like it wouldn't balance anywhere else. So we're in the car. We're just gonna take 5 minutes. I'm not driving. That would be hilarious. No, that would be illegal. I went and got myself a little Starbucks. Oh, I love when it shoots down like that. So yeah, so I'm gonna do some reading. I'll let you know how I get on. Just read another chapter. I'm now on to chapter 6. I've had my lunch, I've had my coffee. Good reading, good reading. Okay, it's time to sit down and finish reading the donor. It's been really handy doing having that little block of time and doing a chapter at a time. This is really, the writing makes you quite uncomfortable. Like, the events that are happening would make you uncomfortable anyway, but the way it's being described, the way it's being written, it's very good. I'm glad that this is my first Claire Mackintosh. Well, I just finished the donor. That was so good. Seriously, this is £1 and it's a story that had me breathless, and that ending, oh my goodness, yeah, literally had me holding my breath. I'm definitely going to seek out more Claire Mackintosh to read. Thanks to Quick Reads, I was able to try something by her. I loved it. Gonna find out more. So we're gonna go on to the next one. Don't know if it's gonna happen tonight, might be tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay, it's time to start the next Quick Reads title. So this is Notting Hill Carnival, A West Side Story by Candace Carty-Williams. Sapphire is a hothead leader of the Red Roses in an area where gang loyalty is what matters. But after a tragic event, Sapphire vows to leave her old life, friends and gang behind. Life without the Red Roses and the violence that always followed is certainly quieter, to say the least. And of course, Candace Carty-Williams is the author of Queenie. So we have our book, we have our coffee. There will be a discount code for this cup in the description box below. Let's do some reading. So I am done with Notting Hill Carnival, A West Side Story, and this really did remind me of West Side Story. So if you are a fan of that movie, you'll probably like this book, but obviously it's set in modern day London. One of the things I really liked about it was that they get the tube various places. I'm like, okay, I can picture them getting on there. They're not going to change at Oxford Circus, are they? And then it's like, oh, they changed at Oxford Circus. I'm like, oh, nightmare. So that was a fun aspect of it. I will say that this one definitely took me longer to read than the other 3 so far. Even though it's the same length, it is 102 pages. It took me a little bit longer just because there was a lot of information, a lot of names to keep track of. So if you are worried that these are going to be too short for you, then maybe you want to read this one. But it was quite a tense story for a lot of the time, but things do get wrapped up. It's not one of these where you get an ending that's, oh, we have to wait and see, or we have to use our own mind. It does have a wrapped up ending, and that is not a spoiler. You just need to know going into it that you're going to find out what happens in the end. So yeah, so we are done with this one and we're moving on to the next. So we're going to pick up The Darkness Rising by A.A. Dand, which is introducing Detective Inspector Harry Verdi. He has a lot on his plate. His team is facing government cuts. Tensions are building between Bradford's 2 rival drug gangs, and his wife Sima is due to give birth any day now. Didn't know this was set in Bradford. So when bodies start turning up in the old industrial district, the pressure is on to get the case wrapped up. So this is one of these cases where this is a quick reads where I wouldn't normally read this genre, and therefore I wouldn't have discovered this author. However, it's a quick read, it's £1, it's not going to take me too long to read. That's what quick reads is all about. So I just read the prologue, and it's quite sweary and a bit violent so far, so I'm quite into it. Why not? So I just got to chapter 7, and so far definitely a lot of drugs and some prostitution and some death and some violence, and it's not too like police procedural. There's some relationships in there as well, so it's an interesting balance, but definitely kind of more sex and drugs and swearing and violence than I was expecting. So I'm now just over halfway through this, and there's definite kind of content warning for violence and domestic violence and drugs and swearing and what have you, but there's a lot of things about like identity, and specifically British identity in here, when, you know, you've been born in Britain, your parents haven't necessarily, and the kind of tensions in Bradford, and we've got a couple who are Sikh and Muslim, and they're married, and the implications for them and their family, and kind of money from the wrong places and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's really not what I was expecting. Don't know why I didn't read that this was set in Bradford. Who knows, but I'll keep going and let you know. So we've got about, what, 15 pages left now, and everything's coming to a head, and it's all getting very exciting. And I'm at that point where I'm like, am I going to get a conclusive ending here? Because I feel like there's not enough pages for me to get a conclusive ending here. It's all getting very exciting. So I did get an answer to the kind of crimey part of the novel, but the personal part of the novel seems to have been like left hanging, and so on Goodreads that this is officially listed as the Detective Harry Verdi 0.5. This obviously takes place before a series. I don't know if that series is out or if it's coming out. I should probably check that. But yeah, we got the answer to the, like I say, the crimey part of it, with a lot of kind of rogue cop movie cliches, but you know, they're cliches for a reason, aren't they? But the personal side of it was a bit like left up in the air, and I quite like that. Like, I like the fact that it had that kind of domestic personal side to it, as well as the drugs and the murder and the mean streets of Bradford. Yeah, I was pleased that they went for a curry as well, because I was like, you can't be in Bradford and not go and have a curry. So now I'm gonna go and have a curry. It's dinner time. Right, so despite the noise that I may or may not be able to take, we'll see, I'm going to attempt to read this one today. I was going to read it yesterday, but I wanted to vlog it and I didn't have my phone out with me, so yeah, I'll let you know how I get on. Going to be an interesting one because I've read the full novel, so reading the quick reads version of it will be a good comparison, and I'm glad I'm kind of vlogging the process. And I can't see me because of the sunshine, so hopefully this looks alright. I had to come inside because it was too hot, but yeah, this is a really good like edited down version. It's exactly what it said on it, that it's just kind of highlights and sort of simplified stories, and I've forgotten how dark the humour is. Like, it's very funny but very dark humour, and if you are squeamish, some of these might not work for you, but I did the full one on audio, so if that helps at all. But I really like this. I think it's a really good collection. If you haven't read the book and you've been meaning to, this could be a good option for you. Well, I thought that was great. It was a really good representation of the longer book, which, as I say, I did on audiobook, and I love the fact that we've got a non-fiction one in there. They've done that a couple of years, and I like the fact that it includes some non-fiction, because I really like reading non-fiction, and sometimes it gives me the chance to read some non-fiction I might not have otherwise read. Obviously, as I say, I have read this one before, but it was nice revisiting it. And yeah, just there's the same kind of author's note at the end of this one than there is at the end of the full one, and I appreciate that as well. So yeah, all good. Right, so A Fresh Start is actually 10 short stories by lots of different authors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read and I'm going to update you with my thoughts on each of the short stories. So it's a true reading vlog. So the first one is Louise Candlish, and it's very like girl power and also very kind of twisted and evil, and I love it. And it's got just as much of an arc as her novels have. I need to read her new novel. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, so next up we have The Estate by Masuda Snaith. I've not read anything by this author before, so we will see. That's a lie. I have read The Things We Thought We Knew by Masuda Snaith. I feel like it was under a different name, but this one was very good, about a family getting what it deserved. It features a disabled main character, and is the characters are both, I think they're both British Asian. They're from I think the mum's from India and the main character's from the UK. But I like it. And her second novel, How to Find Home, was chosen as a BBC Books at Bedtime. So that's very cool. It also says that she won a prize at Leeds, so I don't know if she's from Leeds. So now we've got The Accidental Date by Keith Stewart. Well, that one was about a father accompanying his autistic son on his first date, and that was really sweet. It covers a lot of the kind of aspects of autism and the fact that no two people on the spectrum are the same, and even though they knew him, it didn't turn out the way they expected to. And actually the father ended up kind of having a nice time with the mother in the end as their own date, which was really sweet. I really like that story. Keith Stewart's the author of A Boy Made of Blocks. I don't know if you can hear me. So that one was a kind of, you can't even see it. That one was a kind of police procedural crime scene type of one, and I didn't even tell you the author. So it was Let No One In by Mari Hana, and it takes place on the 7th of April 1993. So if you like kind of crimey stuff, and that's it, that's the one. If you like kind of crimey stuff and police procedural type of thing, bit of violence thrown in, you'll like that one. That was probably my least favourite so far. So we had the kind of thriller of the Louise Candlish, and then we had two sort of nicer, heartwarming type stories, but this one also features a strong woman. So I think there's a lot of, it's called A Fresh Start. I think that's kind of the theme, obviously, running through the book, but it's got a lot of kind of people doing things you don't expect them to do, as well as a tool to get into that fresh start, which I really like. It's very cool. So I just read The Makeover, which is the Jojo Moyes story in this one, and this is very much sort of the most on point of the fresh start themes, but kind of looking at yourself and looking at how your perception of yourself might be different to what you expected, whereas the ones so far have been the perception of somebody else might be different, and really looking at a fresh start and looking at kind of self-image and sort of a woman's image of herself and a woman's image to the outside world and her partner, which was an interesting one. And we've got Fanny Blake next. So Sisters by Fanny Blake was another take on a fresh start with a relationship between sisters, and kind of was a bit of an emotional one, a discovery of a letter and a death of a parent. And yeah, that one seemed shorter than the others. It was just kind of felt like one conversation, even though it took place over a couple of days. But yeah, it was nice. Obviously Fanny Blake is the one who edited this together, so she really understands the take on a fresh start. So A Quiet Road by Adelle Parks was domestic thrillery type of action. You could kind of see where it was going from the start, but I liked the little details that she popped in there and a bit of foreshadowing, and there's an ending that isn't really an ending as well, and I'm like jealous of the title. I wish I had A Quiet Road. I would really like A Quiet Road right now. So that one was You and Me by Mike Gale, and features the massive Primark in Birmingham, so that was fun. But again, deals with like a fresh start in a different way. What happens when you go from being the parent that's at home to the parent that gets to take the kid out on the weekend, and how that relationship changes. So that was an interesting perspective, especially because we've read about that a lot from female authors and female characters. To have a male author and a male character was interesting, and features places that I know, which is always fun. So that one was Decluttering by Sophie Kinsella. You know, I'm a big Sophie Kinsella fan, so it was kind of an easy going back and forth between a couple decluttering, a fresh start, a room because they're about to have a baby, but then it turns into more of a discussion about family, and when kind of family upsets you and maybe you need to declutter those feelings that you're holding on to about things that happened a while ago, and was just, yeah, funny in parts and heartfelt at the end, definitely. So that last one was Easy Street by Rankin, which was again a bit of a domestic thriller as well. Obviously he's known for his crime writing, but it was quite a slow reveal. You got more and more details as it went along, and then you kind of didn't know the extent of what was going on until the very end, which was very cool, and made for a perfect short story, actually. Pretty good, a good way to end the book as well, and his character did get a fresh start, so keeping in line with the theme of this one. I was very impressed by this, actually. Really recommend this one if you're looking for a few short stories to pick up, especially right now when there's less headspace and house space for reading. So I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog and review. Let me know in the comments which one you like the sound of the most. I hope this was helpful for you. If you would like to see more videos like this, do let me know in the comments. Do leave me a comment and let me know. Make sure you are subscribed so that my next bookish video lands in your subscription feed. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you with my next video. Thanks for watching.